Hello, my friends. How are you? Welcome to 30 Albums for 30 Years. I'm your host, Jay Sweet. This is a global pop episode, and this is part 3 of the 3-part series, the final part of our look into Asian music. And today, we will discuss the music of J-pop, C-pop, and K-pop. So let's get popping. Okay, so we begin today's program by looking at J-pop music, short for Japanese popular music, which is basically the blending of Japanese music along with more Western styles like pop, rock, hip-hop, electronica, R&B, funk, much more. So the concept of blending Western influences into Japanese music begins with the jazz and blues craze of the 1920s, and efforts at that time were being made by Japanese musicians to incorporate jazz into their music. Now, these efforts were widely halted by the government in Japan until after World War II. Jazz has had an enormous impact on Japanese culture, and today, jazz music is still trendy in Japan. Many American jazz musicians go to Japan to perform. Now, before it was called J-pop, the blending of traditional Japanese music with more Western pop music was known as Kayokuyoko, Kayokyu. In the 1950s, more jazz musicians began to come to Japan, and the style became even more prominent. Early Japanese pop music often blended jazz music. In fact, Japan became a welcomed visit for American jazz musicians who began to struggle in America due to the popularity of early R&B and rock and roll. In the 1960s, Kayokuyoko groups remained more popular, performing on military bases became more popular, and the influence of Elvis Presley encouraged more Japanese groups to present versions of his music and his style. In 1962, the surf band The Ventures visited Japan, and it encouraged Japanese youth to learn to play the electric guitar. And then in 1966, Beatlemania, the Beatles played in Japan and became the first true rock group to perform there, causing a huge cultural impact, as well as a fear of rebellion by the Japanese government. In the 1970s, American folk music began to lead to some interest from some Japanese artists to copy that style, and bands like the Folk Crusaders were one of the Japanese bands who was doing so. And then a style of music known as new music in Japan focused less on presenting political messages that were associated with U.S. folk music, but more on personal themes like love and loss and things like that. One such band popular in that genre was called the Happy End. Also in the 1970s, Japanese musicians began experimenting more with synthesizers and progressive and psychedelic rock. In the 1980s, more interest in album rock and progressive rock came to be in Japan, as well as jazz fusion, blending rock music with jazz music. That was also of interest, and the Japanese rock industry began to grow. Also, female pop divas and idol bands began to capture the public's interest, and Japanese idol groups really began to emerge in the mid-1980s throughout the late 1980s. Those are manufactured bands, sort of like a boy band, if you will, or a girl group that's put together to perform in a certain commercialized style. It's really in the 1990s that the development of J-pop as we now know it emerged, as more and more pop groups began to come to be and gain international attention. And by 1997, J-pop hit its commercial peak, really. The artist known as Glay, Glay, performed a concert in 1999 to a record audience of 200,000 people, making it one of the biggest concerts of all time. So you could see that there was a real interest in J-pop music. Now, in the 2000s and beyond, hip-hop music has emerged with Japanese pop music, and along with manufactured idol groups, J-pop continues to flourish and evolve. So to find music to play for you today, I went to the website midder.com, MIDDER, to see what they thought were the top 3 J-pop songs of all time. And coming in at number 3 is a song called Osewa by a popular Japanese vocalist named Ado, ADO. This song was released in 2020. The lyrics criticize what people believe to be common sense, and the word Osewa means shut up. The song has become a youth anthem. It's loved by the youth and hated by the parents, so that's about as rock and roll as you can get. The song peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Japan Hot 100s. It's went viral, reached 100 million views in 148 days after its release. Musically and lyrically, the song is aggressive. It's pretty complex rhythmically, and it's just a rockin' tune. So, Osewa, let's check it out. According to midder.com, the number 2 song is Pon 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 by J-pop princess Kerry Pamyu Pami. Released in 2011, the song's a major hit with over 1 million digital downloads, and the colorful, vibrant video of Pamyu Pami dancing has also been viewed over 100 million times. It's just a feel-good, danceable song geared mainly towards adolescents. The lyrics translate loosely to this. This is a portion of them. Pon, 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 let it out. Come on, let the crazy show, because if you don't, life would be so dull. Don't you know? Headphones on my ears. Rhythms got me jamming here. Way open road. Gotta make it on my own. All right, let's enjoy. Pon, pon, pon. So now we get to the number 1 J-pop song according to midder.com, and it's Oblivious by Calafina. Calafina is a popular girl group, and this one comes from their 2009 debut album, Seventh Heaven. The music can best be described as techno or EDM, and the lyrics speak of taking a chance and flying into the future obliviously, and just seeing what happens. Let's check it out. Oblivious by Calafina. C-pop music. C-pop is a term used for Chinese pop music, and it has a similar kind of path to that of J-pop music in that there was an early interest in jazz music. Now, Chinese popular music was initially a vehicle for cultural revolution, as we have discussed when looking at Chinese rock music in part 1 of this series, and of course the Tiananmen Square incident. C-pop music does have to conform to the strict communistic rules of the Chinese government, so keep that in mind when listening to the music and analyzing the lyrics if you do. Jay Chou is hailed as the king of C-pop. Chou has been in the music business since the early 2000s. He's a famous singer throughout Asia, known for his unique musical style, which is a mixture of classical, R&B, and even hip-hop. This song is called Blue and White Porcelain. It's one of his most famous songs. It is a love ballad, and here are some of the translated lyrics from the chorus. Within its blue misty drizzle, I am waiting for you. Through its spiral smoke and rivers, we are thousands of miles apart. The little strokes at the bottom of that vase is a foreshadow of our meeting that is to come. Within its blue misty drizzle, I am still waiting for you, as the moonlight washes ashore the remnant of our meeting. As our precious porcelain retains her beauty, your eyes carry your smiles. Next up, we will hear from Jolin Tsai, and the song is Karma. According to the chairmansboa.com, Tsai is hailed as the queen of C-pop. She has been in the music business since the early 2000s as well. She is a trendsetter and is always changing her style. Her music is mainly pop with a mixture of other genres like techno and even some reggae. The song Karma, one of her most famous, is a song of revenge and, of course, karma. Let's take a listen. Hip-hop has filtered into C-pop music in a major way, and the Higher Brothers are proof of this. They are part of a bigger rap collective known as CDC, and here their song Made in China talks about the many things, it's a tongue-in-cheek kind of song, that are made in China, and they do it through rap. So let's check it out. Higher Brothers, Made in China. The Asian style of pop music that has gained the most attention as of late is K-pop music, Korean popular music. In 1885, an American missionary named Henry Appenzeller began teaching American and British songs to school children in Korea. These songs were known as Changa songs, Changga. They were typically Western melodies sung with Korean lyrics. During the Japanese colonial period of 1910 through 1945, Changa songs began to include lyrics that expressed opposition towards Japanese interference, and the government banned much of that music. After World War II ended, Korea was split into North Korea, which is communistic, and South Korea, democratic, and more Western influence began to filter into South Korea. This divide, however, was not acceptable to the Chinese and the Soviet Union, who of course were a communistic government, and war between the two Koreas called the Korean War led to more Western influence as entertainers like Nat King Cole, Marilyn Monroe, and Louis Armstrong would go to South Korea to perform for the troops. The Korean War lasted from 1950 to 1953. In 1959, the Kim sisters went to the U.S. and became the first Korean pop act to affect U.S. markets with their cover of Charlie Brown, which reached number 7 on the charts. And more groups followed. In the late 1960s and 1970s, the American hippie culture impacted Korean pop, and more liberal and meaningful lyrics filtered into Korean pop, and this led to a government ban of many South Korean and U.S. songs. The musician who is most representative of the U.S. folk rock and hippie era in Korea, South Korea, was Han Dae-soo, a South Korean raised in the U.S. who became a cultural icon to Korean youths. The 1980s saw the rise of the ballad singers in South Korea, people like Lee Kwan-jo, Lee Moo-si, Byung-jin Sub, and Cho Young-pil. K-pop music, as we've come to know it, really developed in the 1990s. This is when it began to incorporate more danceable rhythms, Western styles like hip-hop, jazz, and electric dance music. Among the most critical of the early groups was Seo Taiji and The Boys. Their success led to the development of more manufactured idol bands. So what began to happen was South Korean management agencies offered binding contracts to potential artists, sometimes at a very young age. And trainees would live together in a regulated environment and spend many hours a day learning how to sing, dance, and speak foreign languages, and also gain other skills in preparation for their debuts. It was a very robotic, manufactured system, and that's how idol groups came to be in K-pop music. Now, some people have been critical of K-pop as of late for its overuse of commercialism and its lack of true South Korean cultural identity. Some K-pop groups have also been under scrutiny for plagiarism and also have been accused of cultural appropriations against African Americans and other cultures. Some groups in the past have even used blackface, along with racial slurs, which have proven problematic. In terms of government, the government really has supported K-pop over the last several decades because K-pop has generated enormous income, and therefore efforts are made to keep K-pop internationally popular. In order to choose selections for our K-pop listening, I went to Rolling Stone's list of the top 100 K-pop songs of all time. And coming in at number 3 is Good Day from IU. Good Day was released in 2011. It has sold more than 4.4 million downloads. This is pop with a capital P. This music is meant to be accessible, and this song is about adolescent insecurity when dealing with a new relationship. Good Day. Coming in at number 2 on the Rolling Stones' best K-pop hits is the song Candy from the group H.O.T., released in 1996. Now, H.O.T. is the perfect example of a manufactured idol group, K-pop idol group, and it comes from their debut album called We Hate All Kinds of Violence. The song is about preparing to break up with a girl and then realizing that you don't want to anymore. So it's a sweet song, and it's called Candy. Go figure. Let's check it out. Coming in at number 1, according to Rolling Stones, of the best K-pop songs of all time is G from the group Girls' Generation, released in 2009. It's a bubblegum electro-pop tune about a crush. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed our look into Asian music, popular Asian music. Of course, I've only just scratched the surface, even though it was a 3-part series. So I leave you with a final track. This comes from the best-selling K-pop band of all time. You've probably heard of them. They're called BTS, and this is their 2021 hit, Butter. Have a wonderful day, and peace.